It's time to rest again, rebels, to let the day go, to let your mind wander. We're going to hear the story of Leah Chase, a chef who squeezed everything she could out of life. She loved to cook, and she loved it because she discovered food has a way of changing people's minds, softening their hearts, and bringing them together. Have you ever taken a seed and with water and patience turned it into something you could eat? Have you ever taken something small that others would have thrown away and turned it into something beautiful? You could call this resourcefulness or inventiveness or magic. Leah Chase had a knack for this kind of magic. So let's go back to where it all started. Back to an old shabby house on a huge plot of land in Madisonville, Louisiana. Back to a warm summer morning with a sweetness in the air from rows and rows and rows of strawberries in the garden. Leah lay down lazily in the grass, letting little beads of sweat pop up all over her skin and cover her like diamonds. She was admiring her daddy's gardens, lush and beautiful gardens with every vegetable or fruit you could want. But it wasn't always that way. You see, Leah's mama and daddy had 14 children, 12 scrappy girls, and 2 boys after that. Leah was the oldest. Now, Leah and her siblings weren't poor exactly. It's just that life out in the country is a little bit different. It's not about how much money you've got, but what you can make out of what you have. And what her parents had was land, lots of it. And so, long ago, to care for his big family, Leah's daddy decided to plant seeds, stuffing them into the soil on their acres and acres of land. And after the rains and the warmth of the spring sun, the seeds grew. They grew into bell peppers and onions and celery and everything else you can imagine. The vegetables were so bountiful, they were able to feed their whole family and the neighbors too. Leah's daddy realized he had the magic touch. Then one day he said, "You know what I love? Strawberries." And just like that, he decided to plant a few strawberry seeds. And after the rains and the spring sun, he grew more strawberries than you can imagine. 20 acres of them. There were so many strawberries, Leah and her siblings had to stay home from school all spring just to pick them all. Leah would scoot along on the dirt, row by row, plucking the juicy red fruit. It seemed as though every time Leah plucked one, another one would pop up in its place. It was a lot of work. But today, Leah didn't have to do anything but lay around. That's when she heard footsteps coming down the stairs on the front porch. She rolled her head over and saw her daddy with a fishing pole over his shoulder and a tackle box at his side. "Where you going?" asked Leah. I'm going down to the river and catch me some catfish, he answered. Can I come? I want to dangle my feet in the water. He nodded, and Leah followed her daddy all the way down to the river's edge. She lay down on the wooden dock and peered into the murky water below. Daddy? Asked Leah, who was known to question everything. How do you know there's any fish in there? I can't see nothing. Her daddy laughed. Just because all you can see is what's on the surface, don't mean that's all that's out there. He leaned in close and told her a secret. All you need is a little chicken skin, a little bit of soap, and some patience, and the catfish will come running. Just stay quiet and quit fidgeting. Leah was skeptical. Nevertheless, she tried to use her eyes as beams to peer deeper into the water. And all of a sudden, Leah saw the shadow of something. It was a catfish. No, 2, 3. The catfish leaped out of the water one after another, so high that Leah could catch them with her hands. Leah and her father caught a dozen fish that day. Just before they left, her daddy rubbed his hands together for luck, then reached down into the water up to his elbow and drew back a net filled with little blue crabs. The lanyap, he said with a wink, a little something extra for tomorrow. Leah's eyes danced in their sockets. What's tomorrow? Didn't your mama tell you? The whole family is coming over tomorrow for a big Sunday dinner. The whole family? Asked Leah. Even all our cousins? That's almost 80 people. Well then, we'd better get home to help with the getting ready. Leah was so excited, she ran all the way home and straight into the house, where she found her mother and her sisters sitting together at the kitchen table in front of a stack of flour sacks. What are y'all doing? Asked Leah. We got a party to prepare for. Oh, but we are preparing, her mother told her. You're looking at the world's most beautiful tablecloth. Leah was skeptical. Nevertheless, Leah's mama showed her daughters how to wash the flour sacks, gently peel the labels off, and starch them until they were wrinkle-free. Then she took a pencil and sketched beautiful flowers and swirls onto the cloth. I'm going to teach you how to stitch over my drawings with a needle and thread. It's called embroidery. With a little bit of green thread, she stitched a tiny, delicate leaf onto the cloth. Then Leah tried it, and as she weaved a bit of yellow thread into the cloth, a delicate little daffodil appeared. The girls sat in a circle on the front porch, sewing onto their mother's intricate drawings with bright, colorful thread. And when they were done, Leah saw they had truly made the most beautiful tablecloth she'd ever seen. But Mama, asked Leah, who almost always had one more question, what are we going to do for fun at this get-together? Her mama grinned and glided down the porch. You'll fly your kites, of course, said Mama, tapping the trunk of an old cypress tree in the yard. With just a few strips of bark, some crepe paper, and a little homemade paste to hold it all together, you'll have the prettiest kite in the sky. Leah was skeptical. Nevertheless, Leah's mother peeled strips of bark from the old cypress tree, and she showed her daughters how to build sturdy, colorful kites. And in no time at all, the sisters had made themselves 12 dazzling kites to soar in the sky. The next morning, Leah was still exhausted from all the fishing and the sewing and the kite making. She stumbled into the kitchen, where her mother was stirring something that smelled scrumptious. "Mama," she asked, rubbing her eyes, "are we really gonna have the whole family for dinner? How are we gonna feed them all?" Without a word, Leah's mama took her by the hand and guided her out the front door and into the vegetable fields. "But these are just vegetables," Leah said with a frown. "People are gonna get hungry." "No," said her mother. "This is the beginning of something good." Leah was skeptical. Nevertheless, Leah helped her mother carry a basket of onions, bell pepper, and celery into the house. Then her mother called out to all her daughters, "Okay, girls, we just need to chop up these vegetables, add them crabs and the fish that your father caught yesterday, and toss them into this roux I made as the sauce to hold it all together. And we're about to have ourselves the biggest, most delicious pot of gumbo in the neighborhood." And she was right. Mama let Leah have the first taste, and it had all the flavors and textures of something served in a fancy restaurant. When all 80 of Leah's aunts, uncles, and cousins showed up that afternoon, they gathered underneath the cypress trees. Leah and her sisters brought out the beautiful kites they had made to share with their cousins, and the new tablecloth they had made for the table. But the gumbo was the showstopper. The pot was so big and so full that it took Leah and both her little brothers to carry it. That afternoon, Leah and her family played until they were tired, laughed until their sides hurt, and ate until their bellies were full. And Leah learned that you don't need much to have happiness. All you need is imagination, a willing heart, and a few seeds.
This podcast is a production of Rebel Girls. It's based on the book series Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. This story was produced by Robin Lai, with sound design and mixing by Craig Billmeier. It was written by Ashli St. Armant, fact-checking by Joe Rhatigan, narration by Ashli St. Armant. Our executive producer was Katie Sprenger. Thank you to the whole Rebel Girls team who make this podcast possible. Stay Rebel.